You know that Donald Trump is being prosecuted now. These are political prosecutions. Letitia James in New York is prosecuting him for doing normal real estate business. So he wanted to get a loan. He went to some big Wall Street banks. He said, look, these are the properties I have, and this is what they're worth. And then the bank does their due diligence, and they decided if it was worth them giving a loan or not. And they thought it was. And they gave Trump these loans, and then Trump paid them back, and everybody made money. So it turns out the bank was right to lend that money to him. He was a good risk. Trump paid it back. Everybody made money. In fact, the bank wants to do business with him again. They sued him for artificially inflating the value of his property. Now, that's what every real estate agent does, as Kevin O'Leary told us, or confirmed. And so what they did was they decided to criminalize a normal business practice of Donald Trump, and they got a corrupt judge to oversee it. That judge is completely corrupt. And so these are political prosecutions of the president's political enemies. That's what this is. The donor class is political enemies, which is why this is allowed to happen. And so Jon Stewart has turned into a cuck for the Democratic Party. Maybe he always was, but when he first came back, he did 2 episodes where he kind of tried to be even-handed, making fun of Biden and Trump equally for being old and whatever, and he caught shit from it. I mean, from his shit lib circles, and people hated him. Oh, Jon Stewart's helping Trump. Jon Stewart's a Trumper. Same thing. So he got his mind right. And just like I told you, Jon Stewart will never tell you the truth about the Ukraine war. He'll never tell you the truth about COVID. He'll never tell you the truth about vaccines. He told you the truth about the Wuhan lab once, and he had to atone for that for a year straight. He had to do interviews with bloodthirsty warmongers. He had to bring on 4 vaccine liars on his show. He had to pin a medal on a Nazi for the war machine. He did it, and he did all of those things. And now he's doing this. Now he's pretending like Donald Trump actually broke a law, and he's pretending there's actually some victims, and he's acting like this isn't exactly what it is, a political prosecution. He's going along with it. Why do you think he's allowed to have this show? Why do you think the establishment is willing to let a guy who's supposed to be telling the truth? The last thing if you're a truth teller, the last place you're going to end up with is a network television show to tell those truths. Okay, so let's watch what he said about this case.
You know, let's take a step back. What did Trump actually do to earn this penalty? Well, it turns out that for a decade, whenever Trump wanted to get a loan or make a deal, he would illegally inflate the value of his real estate. For instance, suggesting that his 11,000 square foot penthouse was a 30,000 square foot penthouse, I guess somehow including the sky in the calculation. We all do it. I mean, in my license, I'm not listed as 5'7", you know. I'm listed as 30,000 square feet.
And now the problem is, John's funny. I think those are solid jokes. I think he's kind of funny. I think he's very talented, and he performs those jokes well. Okay, here we go.
Thank you. And the Attorney General of New York knew that,
who's unbelievably corrupt, which we proved. She campaigned on a political prosecution of Donald Trump, and then when she got in office, she did exactly that. And then she lied and said she didn't. I didn't campaign on prosecuting Trump. She did. I showed you the video. She's 100% corrupt liar. Okay.
Trump's property values were inflated because when it came time to pay taxes, Trump undervalued the very same properties. It was.
So he's saying you knew he inflated. Letitia James knew he inflated the price of his properties because when it came to pay the tax on those, he used the lower tax assessment to pay taxes on them. Again, something everybody does. This is Jon Stewart's argument.
Part of a very sophisticated real estate practice known as lying. So the judge calculated that the value that he gained from the lying.
So what they're saying is that Donald Trump pulled the wool over the most powerful banker's eyes in the world. That's what this whole case relies on. That he lied to the banks, and the banks didn't do their due diligence. They did. The banks knew what those properties were worth. They knew what the market value was versus the tax assessment. The banks know. The banks just don't go, Trump, tell us what your stuff's worth, and here's your loan. That's not how it works. But that's what they're pretending. And so is Jon Stewart. Because Jon Stewart is a cuck to the establishment.
Interest was around $454 million. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, that sounds pretty straightforward. Whatever gains you got from lying, you have to pay back. Well, that's because you're a f***ing idiot. If you knew anything about business, if you had an MBA, you'd know. You're a f***ing idiot.
We're talking about a victimless crime. They find an ordinance or a law that has never been used ever before in anyone else.
He's committed bank fraud where there's no victim. It makes no sense.
No victims. There was no victim. The ruling is blatantly unfair.
That didn't go over very well with the investment community because we're all asking each other, who's next?
And the part he doesn't show is called Kevin O'Leary. Is Kevin O'Leary then telling the CNN host that, hey, what you're prosecuting Donald Trump for is doing what real estate agents do in every city in every country all over the world every day. You're criminalizing normal business practice. And that's a fact. And Jon Stewart is now going to twist it.
Who's next? The persecuted minority of the investment community. First they came for the arbitrageurs, and I said nothing. For I was not an arbitrager. And then they came for the quants. Which I could be, I don't know what a quant is. But I am surprised to hear this from Kevin O'Leary, a guy who's such an asshole. Wait. That even the other people on Shark Tank thinks he's an asshole. Now, he's very chill. I'm surprised to hear that he's so chill about overvaluing something that he thinks is victimless. Because when someone tries to do that to him,
So now you're going to see Jon Stewart. By the way, Jon Stewart he's now protecting big banks against real estate development. That's what he's doing right here. He's saying that Donald Trump committed fraud against these big banks, which the banks made money off Donald Trump, and they want to do business with him again. He's like a consumer protection reporter who only covers private jet sale fraud. That's what he's really upset about here. That's just your Jon Stewart. Okay, here we go.
One of you, do I absolutely tear to pieces now on a $28 million valuation?
You think this is worth $10 million?
Absolutely.
Okay, now I'm going to rip your pieces. Are you out of your mind?
Your valuation's insane.
Your valuation's crazy. I think that's a crazy valuation.
I think your valuation is stinky poo-poo.
no, you didn't.
So there's Jon Stewart giving you proof that when someone tries to overvalue something to Kevin O'Leary, he gets upset about it. Yeah, so Kevin O'Leary would be the bank in that situation. So you don't think the bank went, hey, I think you're overvaluing this? You think the bank's just like, duh? What do you think the banks do? Again, they act like Trump was doing this to a hot dog vendor. Trump was dealing with the biggest banks in the world, getting hundreds of millions of dollars in loans. And this is called due diligence. So this is Kevin O'Leary doing his due diligence, saying, I don't believe what you say your stuff is worth. You're valuing your company at this. That's exactly what the banks do. It's like going in to buy a car. The car salesman says the car's worth this. You say this is what I think it's worth. And he's turning that into a crime. Why? Because he got his clock cleaned for telling a little bit of truth about how old Joe Biden is. That's what happened. Here we go.
Canadians are so vulgar. How is he not this mad about overvaluations in the real world?
First of all, that was the real world. And second of all, because Trump was doing that to a guy just like him at a bank. And they're not victims. Jon Stewart's whole idea here, his whole premise, is that the victim is somehow a bank. The biggest banks in the world. That's his premise. This is real. Okay. And now it makes me wonder. All the videos I watched of Jon Stewart and I enjoyed and I ingested and I laughed at and I loved and I looked up to him as a semi-heroic figure. Now it makes me wonder, hey, I wonder if he was doing all that shit back then too and I just wasn't up on the subjects that he was doing. This is sleight of hand. And this all comes from a political point of view. The point of view of, I want to be in with people who hate Trump again. I'm sorry for telling a small truth about Joe Biden's dementia. This is just exact same thing he did when he told the truth about where the COVID virus came from, the Wuhan lab. This is exact. He got spanked after that. He immediately hung a medal on a Nazi. He immediately did gave a tongue bath to 2 blood-soaked war criminals, Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton. He then brought on 4 vaccine liars onto his show. Not one person who had a counter narrative to it. And lied about COVID. This was all to get back into the gray, and that's what he's doing here. He doesn't need the money, which I'll show you in a second. I don't know why he's doing, though. I do know why he's doing this.
Not victimless crimes. First, the banks got paid back at lower interest rates, although, to be honest...
Oh, the banks.
Oh, I'm so worried about the banks.
Oh, the banks. They didn't make enough money. The banks.
Oh.
The banks didn't make enough money. They got paid back. They made money. They didn't make enough. They didn't make enough. Oh, John. Really, you should go back. Go blow the roof off of private jet sales for me. Go do that.
Who gives a shit? But second, money isn't infinite. A loan that goes to the liar doesn't go to someone who's giving a more honest evaluation.
Which real estate person in New York, Manhattan, do you think is giving an honest evaluation of their real estate to a bank? Who goes in and goes, here's what it's really worth? Nobody does that. So he's saying some honest other billionaire got screwed out of getting hundreds of millions of dollars in loans from a bank. That's what he's saying. So someone who got screwed, another billionaire real estate person. This is who he's looking. This is how he has to twist himself in a pretzel to defend the political prosecution of a former president of the United States. Jon Stewart is using comedy to aid corruption instead of exposing it, which is the opposite of comedy. So now Jon Stewart's not only betraying his audience, he's not only betraying America, he's betraying comedy. Because he's using comedy to further corruption and make you comfortable with it under the guise of exposing corruption, except he's not. He's making you accept the most corrupt shit I've seen in my life, which are these political prosecutions of Donald Trump, who I didn't vote for, I'm not going to vote for. And the fact that I have to say that is disgusting, but I do have to say it, so I say it. So why is he so that's this? So this is your setup. So this is the setup, and every good joke needs a punchline. And what is that punchline? Here's the punchline. Jon Stewart benefited by 829% overvalue of his New York City home, even as he labels Trump's civil case not victimless. Hey, Jon Stewart, how does it feel to realize you're not Donald Trump's shadow anymore? You've actually become his mini-me. You do all the same stuff Donald Trump does. You just do it on a smaller scale. That's all. Your life is a diorama of his. Should we start calling you the John? He did it. So you want to hear the details? That's why this is funny. But it didn't take long for the internet sleuths to look into Jon Stewart's own property history, which shows his New York City penthouse sold for 829% more than its assessed value. Records confirmed by the Post. In 2014, Stewart sold his 6,280 square foot Tribeca duplex. Man, that's big. In Manhattan, that's big. To a financier, a guy named Parag Pandey, for $17.5 million. But according to the 2013-2014 assessor records obtained by the Post, the property had the estimated market value of $1.8 million. But he sold it for $17 million. That is some markup.
Huh.
Does he have a Whole Foods in the middle of that duplex?
Huh.
The actual assessor's valuation was even lower at $847,174. So look at that. It was assessed at, so this is the same thing Trump did. He did, but only on a smaller scale. But still a huge scale for a regular person. Records also show that Stewart paid significantly lower property taxes, which were calculated based on that assessor valuation price, precisely what he called Trump out for doing in his Monday monologue. But John was just dodging taxes because he didn't want to have that money go to war, I bet, right? Or, schools or safe roads. Last month, Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron, that's the corrupt judge that's prosecuting Trump. He ordered Trump to pay $355 million. I thought it was $400. Anyway, and temporarily banned him from doing business in the state, relying heavily on the assessed valuations of the properties to determine the ruling. Shit, $355 million for that kind of money. Donald Trump could have bought Jon Stewart's place like a trophy. Here's what Tim Pool said. Did Jon Stewart commit fraud when he sold his penthouse for $17.5 million? New York listed its market value at $1.8 million, NAV, an assessed value at around $800,000. Who did he defraud? I'm shocked. Shocked. And here's, it isn't, by the way, Tim, it's not fraud when a comedian does it. Jon Stewart was just kidding. He was just busting balls. Mm-hmm. Satire is protected by the Constitution. So here's what Jon Stewart, when he got caught doing this, he made a tweet. And here's his tweet. Oh my God, I've been caught doing something not remotely similar to Trump. I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same basis you were criticizing him for. I guess all I need to do now is start a fraud college, steal classified docs, something that Joe Biden has done, bankrupt casinos. What does that have to do with anything? His casino went bankrupt. He had a business that went bankrupt. Pay hush money. What the fuck? Grab pussies. What? You've never grabbed a pussy, John? Discriminate in housing. Cheat at golf. Cheat at golf. So this is what's called deflection. That's what this is called. Don't look at me, look at him. No, now all you have to do is pin a medal on a Nazi, give a tongue bath to blood-soaked war criminals, lie about COVID and the vaccine. How about, I could do that too, John. Hey, you could also lie about the Ukraine war, because you do that too. Foment insurrection. There it is. He put foment insurrection. He's officially a shitlib. That's how you know. That's on your ID card for shitlibbery. Foment insurrection. He's calling January 6th an insurrection. A bunch of Second Amendment gun nuts showed up at the Capitol to overthrow the government, have an insurrection, except they forgot their guns. Son of a bitch. What part of the cops swinging the doors wide open and taking selfies with those guys makes you think it wasn't an insurrection, John? Of course it was. They did everything except erect a bouncy house inside the Capitol for those protesters. Tim Pool says, my brother, you sold a property. So he then retweets it, Tim Pool. He said, you sold a property in New York valued at $1.8 million to someone for $17.5 million, and they lost $4 million because of it. And you paid taxes on a valuation of $748,000. When it came time to pay taxes, he undervalued his property. That's a quote from Jon Stewart about Donald Trump. And so I retweeted Jon Stewart, and I said, here's a picture of pro-war pig Jon Stewart giving a medal to a legit Nazi in service of the war machine, right after he gave a tongue bath to two blood-soaked war criminals and did an entire show lying to promote the COVID vax. Now he's been caught doing the exact thing he's been screaming about Trump doing, inflating the value of a property he owns, and he responds like all narcissist egomaniacs respond when caught being the thing they claim to hate. He responds with deflection, because that's what that is. Methinks thou protest too much, John. I like how he put fraud college in there. Fraud college, you mean like Harvard? You don't think college is a fraud in general? You know, everybody's upset that Trump ruined a casino. Oh my God, you ruined a casino? Baron von Snarkenen? So there's your Jon Stewart. And I can't believe I ever looked at him as a hero. But I did. I looked up to him comedically. He's got comedic chops all over the place. I just didn't have the inside on an actual story that he was spinning. And so now you know that Jon Stewart is just like the people that he's been criticizing his whole life. Just like Joe Scarborough. Just like Trump. Isn't that interesting? And I hate to tell you, John, if cheating at golf were a crime, that all the people you've worked for and taken a check from would be in jail. Wow. And so there's the Nazi, and here's him. He has a cover over his Nazi tattoos. That's why he's wearing that thing on his elbow. To cover up his Nazi tattoos.
Oh, make it look like you've been wounded.
That's his he has his Nazi Azov battalion tattoos. So then rather than wear a long sleeve shirt, he does this to show they're making him shake hands with a Jewish guy against his will. Wow. Turns out Jon Stewart's property values is as inflated as his intellectual property value. Any more inflated, and he'd be right behind the underdog at the Macy's Day Parade. Wow. Anyway, so there you go. Another hero bites the dust. Instead of screaming about this political process, because that would take courage. He'd have to be going against his friends. He'd have to be telling, which is what I did, starting in 2016, when I told people that Hillary Clinton was not your friend. She's been an enemy to workers. She's been a warmongering, thirsty maniac her whole life. And then I went on to tell people that Russiagate was a hoax. It wasn't real. And that Assad didn't gas his own people. And for that, many of my friends will never forgive me. Jon Stewart doesn't have the integrity of a YouTube host. He doesn't have the courage of a YouTube host. He's got zero. He'll never tell you the truth about the Ukraine war. He'll never tell you the truth about COVID. It's amazing. And he doesn't need the money. This is the power of people needing to belong to a group. That's what Jon Stewart's feeling. Jon Stewart needs to get his narcissistic fill refreshed, and that comes from the glowing looks of his admirers, and they weren't admiring him anymore because he told the slight, tiny truth about Joe Biden's dementia. Now, after the last couple weeks of him doing this, MSNBC is actually writing articles about how Jon Stewart's come around. MSNBC. It's he's still funny. He still has the comedic gifts. He still knows how to turn a joke and land a joke. He's very talented. And I haven't laughed at the Daily Show since he left because that other guy, what's his name? Who was the host of
Noah?
Trevor Noah. That guy's not funny. Not funny. And but good for him. He had a great run, made a lot of money. Now he's doing whatever he does. So hey, we have a new sponsor. You know what this stuff is? It's called colostrum. I looked into this stuff, right? This gives you a lot of health benefits. Go ahead, Google it. Go ahead, Google what it says. You'll like what you'll find. It's a lot of good stuff. And I got this right from MedPage, right? It didn't come from their website. It came from third parties. It's called colostrum. Well, this is the brand is Armra, and it's colostrum. And it's the first nutrition we receive in life, and it's an exclusive source of all the essential nutrients we need in order to thrive. A lot of people are taking this stuff now. A lot of people are. It's go good. Look, they've done studies. Amra colostrum. It's a proprietary concentrate of bovine colostrum. Go look what colostrum is. Go look what that is. That harnesses over 400 functional nutrients to strengthen your immune barriers against harmful particles from the environment that can trigger inflammation and make you sick. Colostrum has been known to strengthen immunity, ignite metabolism, fortify gut health, promote hair growth and skin radiance, and power fitness performance and recovery. Armra's premium grass-fed bovine colostrum, that's what this is. It's a concentrate that strengthens all 4 layers of your gut wall, where 80% of your immune cells are housed, and activates cellular health for your resilience and recovery. And get this, in clinical trials, it says that bovine colostrum was found to be at least 3 times more effective than the flu vaccine at preventing the flu. That's a big claim. But guess what? We worked out a special offer for you. For my audience, you're going to get 15% off your first order. Go look up what colostrum is, and then you decide. Go to Try Armra, that's TRYARMRA.com/Jimmy, and enter Jimmy to get 15% off your first order. That's TRYARMRA.com/Jimmy. Hey, there's still tickets available in Stockholm, Oslo, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Edmonton, Alberta, Vancouver, British Columbia, Denver, Ashland, Virginia, and Athens, Georgia. See you there.